Alright, got the stream key working. Welcome back to my show. We're going to be continuing with the Netrunner browser, and we had a few problems last time. I fixed a few of them in the code, and now we should keep going. For you the first joining, I'm making a Netrunner browser in Fuse, and I'm showing this to show off all the features of Fuse, and well, just because it's nice to have a Netrunner card browser. This is where we left off last time. You have a basic card viewer, very basic. It just lists all the cards, and it's it's not really an infinite scrolling list, but it's a list of cards that refreshes automatically. You can click on the card and see what's there, and see the formatting is limited now. That's what I'm going to work on a bit today. And last time we went through and got the font in place, just so that we could show these little symbols here. Today, the first thing I want to do is make this list a little bit prettier. There's no reason we have to show so many. We have to decide what we actually want to show on these cards. So let's see what the code looks like, and let's continue from there. So the listing, the view, card listing, this is the listing. All we do is we show the faction character, and the title, and the flavor text. Now when you're browsing the cards, chances are you don't really want to see the flavor text. It's not really helpful at a glance. So something else might be helpful at a glance. And the first thing I want to do, though, is separate them out somehow based on runner or corporation, so you can quickly see the difference. Though we might not be a big deal, because later, if we separate, we'll have filters. It wouldn't make much sense to show both the corporation and the runner cards at the same time. Maybe there is a use case for it, but I can't think of it right now. But let's just do it anyways, just to show how this would be done. Look at our log, what we print out on these things. This was the card. What else can we show from the card? Flavor, illustrator, no. Side code, runner. Yeah, we want to use the runner card first. The type code is probably what we want. Type code would make more sense. So let's put in a type code. We'll worry about translating this to text later. And there we go. We have the type code in there now. Identity. Hopefully we have some non-identities in your list somewhere here. Okay, program, agenda, assets. Okay. Now we also have the side code, which is runner. So let's make a match on this based on the runner. Match key equals side code. Template equals runner. Actually, let's start from the same position. Copy all of this. Whoops. Sorry, I always get wrong keys again. Template equals... Oh yeah, what was the... What is the side code for corporation? Corp. That's what we want. Corp. Now let's just dock this to the right so we can see a difference. Let's save this. And I got something wrong. Dock panel does not have a property. Yeah, obviously. It's a UX template. This UX template lines up with the match key up here. The side code is something we're looking for in the card, and the template will say use this template based on this matching code. And probably go back to the card list to see it first. Alright, so that's the... Uh-oh, I've done something weird. I think I clicked too much. Okay, so that's enough to show us that we at least have the two different types of cards. They go on either side depending on the card type it is. And now we can start working a little bit with the formatting. So let's just do some very basic things first, just so it doesn't look like a really boring list. We might actually want to make the colors based on the corporation. I know they have standard colors. Let's do that afterwards first, though. Let's do this first. We'll say the runner's coming from the left, so we're going to do a rectangle layer equals background. Corner radius equals, what do I want? I need 10 comma, no, this is left, top right is 10, bottom right, and 10. We'll make this the color. Take the color off there. And we have to put some sort of margin here. Take it off from the right side a bit, so this again is the top and left, and the right should be 10 and 0. That might be too much. That should be enough to see something. Okay. Okay, I don't need to make this perfect, I just want to show a difference just to break up the monotony of this screen a little bit. And we'll do it on the other side here. That's the left. 10 comes 0, comes 0, comes 0. Rectangle layer equals background again. Sticks it behind all of things, even though it's technically on top here. We're going to 10, 0, 0, 10. Let's put slight color variation and make this a little more interesting. So we'll say the runners are good guys, so we'll make them slightly more green than the rest. 8, and then we'll make the corporation. Just consider them red for now. And I have too many F's in there. Okay, I got my corner radius wrong, but that gives us a slight bit of color. Not very much color, but you don't want these things becoming rainbows, especially if we're going to put coloring on top of those icons here. I'm not clear what happened with the color radius, corner radius here for this rectangle. It seems to have just gone away. That's odd. What happened to my corner radius? It's like some part of it got ignored. I'm not clear on how. I also want to put padding on these, so let's add it at the same time. Padding equals 5.2. Oops, got to spell padding right. So it took the padding, so there's something with the corner radius that's just weird. This was the right and bottom, and this should have been the other one. Corner radius, rectangle layer, background color. Huh. Let's try a complete rebuild in case I somehow just didn't pick up those properties. Now, if the only thing that differs here is where we put this symbol, you'd want to try and reuse this stuff. And sometimes in UI, it's not worth the effort to reuse it if you really just have just two of them and they're right beside each other, and there might be variations, and it's just sometimes difficult. We can definitely do it. We can reuse them, and we can put the code on one side. Alright, now I'm wondering where it went to. Hello. Some compact one. I don't know where it went. Card's not found at data contact, so that was weird. So it was a momentary blip. Okay, so I really don't know why that corner radius is not working. Let's just put 10. on all of it. There's always some weird things come up, and okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave compact mode again so I can see the full screen. I really don't know why that corner race isn't working. It has the right color, and corner rate is 50. That should be more than enough. Huh. That is unusual. I have to figure out why that one doesn't work. That's just strange, and I just don't know why that would be. The one we had originally should have worked, so let's just leave it back at that. I'm just worried about something else for now. Now this code here, the faction code, it'd be nice to do something slightly different like that. These things do have colors, I believe, and we just want to figure out how we map the colors. I'm wondering whether it makes sense to actually map the colors. So we're going to have to create factions first, though. So let's create factions, and let's actually check the website if we actually have information about factions. We might not have anything about factions, but let's check it out. Don't know where my windows are again. Let's close this off. Okay, let's go over to factions. Alright, so we're at the Netrunner DB. And they're using colors here. We'll come back to those. Let's look at the API first, wherever that is. And okay. Do they have something for factions? What I want is there actual information on the factions? My understanding is probably not, but oh, they do have factions, and they have a faction code. So let's see what this looks like. What do the factions look like? They have a color too. Now that I think it's simple. Side code runner, faction code, great. That's exactly what we want. And does an individual faction have more? Let's see the sandbox. What else might they have? Oh yeah, that would be helpful. Let's look at Anarch. It doesn't appear to have actually any more in the details. Is mini, is false, name, side code. I don't know what is mini might be, but I'm just completely ignore it right now. And so really, we can just use this main list. And normally you want to load this dynamically. We don't really want to load it dynamically. We just really want to have this data, and by that what I mean is that you don't always want to load everything dynamically because it makes the application start up a bit slower. But what you would ideally do is you would actually load this and cache it so future loads wouldn't take as long. Right now we're just going to skip that step and go straight to the caching step, and we're just going to copy this. We can get away with this for some data. Like this data is not going to change on us very fast. But I'll show you in a later episode how we're actually going to grab and cache this. So the previous one, the cards, we just stuck in a big file under module exports. We're going to do the exact same thing with the factions. Module.exports. And we're going to put that into Netrunner. Call this factions. And if you are watching, just please say hello in the chat so I can say hello back to you, and we'll see where we're going. Okay. Var factions equals require. I have this Netrunner part You see separated out from a normal state because this is really a pure state. It has nothing to do with the application state. I'm making this sort of as a module, a separate module. Factions equals factions.data, just because I copied it raw. Hello, Uldas. I see you again. I'm setting this up so that when we actually dynamically load it, we'll actually see it's actually in the data part. And if you saw it in here, you see data right there. This is a typical JSON response for a REST API. Now we have to associate the cards with these factions, though, and this is where it's going to become a little bit trickier. What we don't want to have duplicate lookups here. So when we have a card listing, we create Netrunner very quickly here. We're just using the raw data, but we'd prefer to link these fields together. Now this is where our state actually comes in, is that we may not actually want to load the cards directly. We had a map card here, and now we actually probably want to actually create new card objects. I'm going to create it directly in the card listing one right now, or yeah, let's just try it there first. So class card. Constructor, and I'm going to say the DB data. I'm going to take the raw data in and construct a card from this. And for these cards, we map them now, and this mapping is actually going to have to do something different now, because I can't replace the card directly. I don't know, does JavaScript actually have a mapping function? That would be really helpful. Let's check our modern JavaScript reference. Is there a map function? There appears to be a map function. Okay, great. Good. So we map it. Map, and we get a function. That's exactly what we want. So we want to do, is it actually part of the, it's part of the array, okay. ndb.cards.map. And we can do this inline because I'm going to actually just create a new object now. And a function card. Return new card C. And you move this up here, the faction code. Okay, and I'm just going to store the raw data for now. Data equals db data. And this dot faction character equals, yeah, okay, let's just do it this way. So we want a, not card, db data. Now we're going to be creating a lot of objects here. We've not actually done this with the model system yet, and these models all have to be diff for changes. So this is actually a huge amount of data load, but we're going to find out what happens. So this dot faction character. So these all have a faction character now. These are actually cards. We'll get rid of this bit because we did the mapping now here in the mapping. And I've forgotten also what I want to do. Let's just check this first. If we look at the card listing, what else do we use? We use the title and the type code, which is good. Title and the type code. So let's just copy those over right away. Equal db data.title, this.type code. So our code will work exactly as it did before. We don't have to do it. We know they changed that. Type code. Type code is the other one we're actually going to want to load a type for as well. Let's see what we actually did here, what type of errors we actually got. Property map of undefined. Okay, ndb.card should be cards. Something wrong again. Card is not defined. I didn't actually check to see where I wrote that. Right there. DB data faction code. Let's see if we still have a card listing. I wonder how long it takes to do this. This is perhaps a disadvantage of doing it all this way, is that what I'm actually doing is it has to do this for all 1,200 cards. I mean, JavaScript is slow, but it's not supposed to be that slow. Card is not defined, so I still have an error somewhere. Where did I put card? I don't know. Card C, card. I don't think I actually have that error. Let's let this rebuild. Now, okay, do we have card? DB data, title code, type code, faction character. Now actually want the faction. I must have done something wrong. Where are my cards? Okay, we have a browser. We have no cards though. As a temporary thing, let's put this back to this.cards equals ndb.cards to make sure it's not our mapping, to see if we actually get anything. Alright, so the cards are there. So I have something wrong with the JavaScript and the mapping. It's a little bit weird. Okay, how can we debug this now? We turn cards.map. Alright, let's just do a console.dir on so cards 0. There must be a first card in there. It has data, it's the title as a faction code. Alright, it has everything we want. How many cards do we have? Length, I think. 1,371. So we actually have that. What did we miss? Probably the template. And now I think about a template. What were we using to actually show the template? We were using side code. Okay, so we don't have a side code in there. That's what we forgot. We could do things. We could put this data here because we left the entire data there. That would actually show it. And or probably not. Interesting, because match key won't support that. I wonder if it has to support that. Probably not. So card listings. So this dot side code equals db-data.sideCode. I have a feeling that it can't support the dot because it's only a single key lookup, and dot is not a key lookup, that's a path lookup. Alright, so that'll explain it. There we go. And sorry, it's a bit confusing when I scroll here. When I'm actually scrolling on the mouse is the preview. If I actually want to scroll, this is touch-based interface, so I actually have to click and scroll up. So now what I've done is I've created actual cards from our back-end data for all of this. This gives us a better place to actually attach more data here, and we can do a lot more to this. We have a faction character, faction code. So now let's look at the factions. What data do we have? We had a code, and we had a color. Now what did I say? These factions, we need to convert this mapping. And let's do this actually in Netrunner, or in the right here. So we actually have a database of these mappings. Trying to think what's the quickest way to do this in JavaScript. I have a key and I want to map it to the actual key object. We're just going to play with the fact that this is a map right now. And what do we have in JavaScript? How do you create a new map? Mapping a map. I want to map a map. Can we just do for each? I don't know some of these options here often. When I do a for each, can I actually modify the map with this? Or is this just an array? Let's just create a new one. Okay. Let's say raw factions and var factions equals. Yes, that's what I'm trying to look for, is how do I convert this faction into an object where the key is the faction code and the rest of it is. So I'm gonna do it the awful way first. There must be a higher level way to do this. F, and so what I want is I want to say factions F equal F dot code. Factions dot data. So now I have these factions. And if we did this right, they should have the factions with their key. Fine, what did I miss? Yeah. Did I miss something else again? No. Don't know why he's complaining now. Card listing 17. Well, that's in the wrong file. Where do we want to put this then? It must be something in here they screwed up somehow. Card listing Netrunner.js. Well, let's just see how far it gets. I don't think it's loading again. I think I broke it. Is the chatting really that slow? How much delay do we have when I say something? Is it the chatting or is it the actual video? So, a chat message. I just wrote a chat message. Okay, I'm going to reload this first. Let's see what happens. I assure you, it's not my internet connection that's slow. Shouldn't be. Should be fast enough. Is it really just chatting too slow? Okay, what do we get? We just rebuilt. I want to see what happens. Alright. Thank you. Well, you do some timing on chatting. If you want me to say ping and you want to time it, or I can time you back and say when I see it, that's fine. Then we can get timing on it. It's always fun. Alright, so this is actually reloaded now. Which means we still have some errors that when a problem that when an error happens in JavaScript, it fails to reload it correctly. So let's get rid of that. 25 seconds. Alright, I'll think slower. Every time I do something, I'll wait. And are you timing from when you type it until it shows up in the video stream? Now I have to wait 25 seconds for a response. I can say all sorts of things and theories in that time. And what we're looking for, we wanted a faction code. We wanted a faction. This.faction equals ndb.factions db data.faction code. So we have a full faction. What's in this faction? Color. Alright, now. Color's not in the format we can use directly. Almost though. And we're going to stick it this way. fcode.color equals. I'm going to use a really rough way. I'm going to do it right here in the data. Patch up the data. I know the card listing. And let's set the color of the text to type code. Faction, no faction character. Text color equals faction.color. There we go. That actually worked. I only did it for one side though, of course, so we don't have this side now. These normal ones, Runner and Corp, because they're neutral, they don't have colors, they probably don't have factions. We just threw the R and the C in last time. It's a rough fix. But let's stick this in here. Okay, now they all have colors. And I don't have to go through any effort to figure out what the color is. That's nice. So, now to justify having different templates, let's, if you didn't see how I did that, just speak up and I can show you how I got the colors into these things and where they're from. Now I want to change it because I don't actually want to use the color of this. I want to put in the color of the background. So, I mean, how do I want to do this actually? Let's just experiment first. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see that over there. All this, make this smaller. So we can see what we're doing here. Oh, it's a bit too small. So this massive font, I can only fit so much in the screen. How do we want to display these things? I want to have a little box with the identity, or how do I want to show this? Let's put this in a rectangle. Let's experiment and see how this looks. Put faction.color here, and put the text inside of it, and put a black text inside of it. If this looks any better, or it looks just awful. Oops. Don't need this doc. Alright, I'm not liking that at all. That doesn't look good at all. And so let's backtrack out of that idea. That looks pretty awful. What else could we possibly do with that? I'm almost thinking this isn't so bad, but I want to do something. I mean, maybe if we just did the normal neutral cards, a stroke would do. Where should I put the stroke around though? Let's put it on there. Okay, we'll try that. Color corner radius equals, how big is the font? Let's just say 5. Stroke width equals 1. Random parameter ordering, it's always nice. Width. Wow, it's reloading a lot. I don't know why. I figured out when I was reloading way more than I expected. Will that look okay? Let's try to break this list up a little bit here. Let's take away the background color here. Let's make it so we don't have a background color. Some margin stroke. Alright, we're just going to go with all this here. He's going to be our graphic designer for today. And real quick at 3. And we want a margin of... The left already has a bit, so but let's just try 7 at 5. Okay, now the issue here is that this text isn't always the same size. Let's give the graphic guys a heart attack here. This text isn't always going to be the same size. Should we just force the width of this? This might actually make sense. We're just going to assume there's nothing too wide, and width 35, and the widest one there may only be, looks like square. Let's say width of 40. Let's see what happens. Okay, so 40 is too wide. And would 35 be enough? 35 looks like it'd be enough. Now we need a text alignment as well. Yeah, I can't make the icons themselves fixed size. This is a font. Remember for last time we're actually using a font here. So these icons are just as wide as they want. But I actually fixed the width a bit. And now I wish I actually had some color operations so we can make this actually a lot lighter. And okay, so which one looks better? Do we like the colors or do we like the little border here? I really don't know. Okay, we're going to make it Christmas tree-like for a while. And do something similar for the runners. The only difference is we docked this right. Now we're going to dock it. Oops, not again. Keep copying the wrong thing. Whoops. Uh-oh. There we go. Dock equals right. Okay. This isn't exceedingly pleasing. Too much going on, I find. And stroke color, faction color. I'm almost thinking the background to the rectangle might make it look a little less busy because I'm finding this looks too busy here. I like the black in the middle, so there's other colors, but let's change it. Let's make it a very subtle color. Now, we can't easily change this color here. It's a fixed color, it's a string. But I wonder if I can actually lerp it directly. So I'm going to change it back to color first, not stroke. We can add a stroke back later. Yeah, no, I can't set... The reason I can't set the opacity is because it's the background of the rectangle. It would set the opacity of the entire icon. But I should be able to do this, and between white and 0.5, well, we're going to see what happens here. Nothing. Why did nothing happen? We just had to click in. So that would actually work. More white. Okay, but I don't actually want white. I want transparent. Okay, that's going to fade to black though, and that's because our lerp isn't doing yeah. Whereas, well, yes, I could do that, but I'm trying to do this without resorting to layers and layers of panels. So, as Ola said, you could put this whole thing in a background in a panel, and just do the opacity on that. But this actually seems to work the same way, but this opacity is a bit too much. There we go, that's the letter. We can just play with this until we get a value that's not so horrific. Oh my eyes, I can't see if it's actually changing. Alright. Okay, alright, fine. I'll just switch the other one. This is subtle. All I wanted is subtle. I just don't want something that jumps out at me and says I've done something horribly wrong, which is what the other one is. So I'm going to quickly change the other one. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to do more design talk in the next bit, but okay, FF 7, get rid of the stroke width. Okay, and that gives us a little bit of coloring for each one of them. The background coloring is there, we can do that. Now, what do we want to do with each of them? Do we want to put something else in this identity? We want to... And the identity is coming from the type code. So let's see what we type code. Identity, this is a code. Now generally you shouldn't show codes directly on the screen because this could have been I13 for all we know. So let's go on and actually figure out, do we have something for codes? Let's go back to the database. So there must be something called type. We have types again. Again, I'm going to do the quick approach here because we're assuming this doesn't actually change very often. We can just hard code this again. I will come back in a future episode and actually do this stuff correctly, that we will actually have a cache, but I will actually store it. Things get a lot more complicated though, because what happens is, for example, in this factions, this is okay, this is easy enough to reload. But in the Netrunner JS, this loop here, this becomes a bit of an issue because this almost has to become high-level model information because we're going to be making changes to it. If we dynamically load, we have to make dynamic changes. And it gets a little bit messy, so let's start with it just the simple way for now. And what do we have here? We have exports. Oh, module.exports. These are types, yeah? Types. I think so. JS. Alright, types equals require. What was in the types information? What do we want from this? Name. We just really want the name, so we don't have to do... Is side types... Is subtype. Okay, there's a subtype entry. No, we have to do the exact same thing. Again, we have to map this over. So these are raw types. Bar factions. Oh. I cut and paste in my mind even. So I still don't know if there's a cleaner way to do this in JavaScript. There must be a way. Or there doesn't have to be a way, just unfortunate if there wasn't a way. Let's call it T as a name this time. T.code equals T. I wonder what that position is. Type's position. I have no idea. We're just going to map this over, and in the cards, yeah, but I don't know how map maps the elements of an array to a new array. I don't know how to give them a key using map. Can you actually do that? Right? I need the resulting object to have keys in it, not just new elements. That's why I can't use map. Because if you see what I did here, I'll get rid of this type one. Reduce. Is there a reduce function? There is. No, not reduce. That just combines them all together. And How would I use this to do that? Am I trying to combine them? Well, if I passed it an empty array, each, there is no each. I have for each. That's what I'm using now, is for each. And unless we know for sure what we can do with that, I'm going to keep going for this and maybe try and fix it after. But where did I put this now? Types. We were looking for the name. Now I've forgotten what I wanted. Name. Okay, we have a name. Card, and so this dot type equals ndb types db data dot type code. And card listing. Where did I put type code? Now we should be able to put type.name. Something went wrong? No, whatever, just rebuild this. Now I notice there's a bit of an issue, and I'm curious how we're going to fix that, is that when I modify a whole bunch of files and press save in each one of them, it sort of triggers a reload on each one, and you want to say you don't want to say it should wait, because then it takes a long time, but then each time I reload it triggers a new reload cycle. So if it's halfway done, it can cause it to go into weird places. It's something you're going to have to bring up with the team, because I know it's happening a lot. And of course pressing rebuild probably wasn't the best idea. Now where is my code? And it gets stuck sometimes. I don't know why. Okay, but now I know why. Now I have an actual error. That's good. I have a feeling that sometimes when it gets stuck, actually what's a problem is that there's just a problem with the logging. Card listing.js to be .types. Probably because I didn't export types. This is a reasonable error. This is coming from the JavaScript, whatever engine we're using. Cannot read property identity. I don't even know what was reading identity. We're not looking for identity. At least this shows us where the error is. Do I just keep getting the same error? I keep getting the same error. Why is that? Card listing. Okay, there's something weird there again. Let's restart that. I should point out I'm using a whole bunch of branches again because I wanted to play with specific features. This is not even the beta release code. This is something even more unstable than that. And so hopefully we can get some of these errors cleaned up before we release this. But the type should work. Start rebuild. Okay, now we have an actual issue. They're working on it. The team's working on it for the tools to have a feedback indicator, because it's probably doing something right now the first time and I just can't see it. And you can see a problem actually came up. So it just took a long time the first time when I rebuild. Anyway, so now we have types. And so we didn't, oops, and I clicked on one. That was, you know. Oh, we got an error in that JSON data. We might not handle errors in JSON data. So we have the actual name now, and these ones have names. I haven't put names on those ones yet. Something tells me we probably should have actually made these the same code. Okay, so now we have the name, and we have the cards, and you have that, the browsers, and these are kind of in a random order. Okay, now our card viewer is using the old format, so we have to fix the card viewing part as well. And this is because card view, we're giving it a card now, card.code, but our actual card probably doesn't have a code in it. This .code. Could probably get rid of this .data at this point. We don't really need to save the source data. And this type of mapping between JSON and high-level objects is actually a very common thing to do. You don't just want to expose, you usually don't want to expose raw JSON because there's so much transformations, and if you pick out individual fields, it provides a nice layer so that you know very clearly what your high-level code is actually binding to. Then you can actually do, then I know for sure I have title, type code, side code, code, and faction and type. There's nothing else from data, so there's no, so if something changes in the format, I know exactly what I have to produce there. Okay, so if I reloaded that, then I should be able to, there, now the page actually loads. Now we actually need to do just a little bit of cleanup on this page. We'll try to keep this design to a minimum now, the card view. Can at least get rid of this weird thing. So it's not going to be a stack panel that we want. What do we actually want to put on here? The cards have all the information on them, which is interesting. Do we just keep the card really big, or do we show something underneath it, or do we just leave this as the card view? It's probably not terrible to just say, hey, look, this is a card view. We don't have anything else we actually want to show here. And so let's just leave it like that for now. Let's just take off everything else. Put a margin on it, and just get rid of the other stuff for now. Oops. See what happens. Now I don't find that terrible because make the fix. Yeah, I was thinking of that too. Should we do expanding and okay, what do I want? What do we want? Paint me. Alright, what do you want to? Alright, let's go for the hard format here. So we're going to keep this information in here. So you guys want panning and zooming, and we'll make this image really small. Let's make some minimal effort here first to do a doc panel, and width equals 100. Let's do it. That. Will that be enough to make it smaller? Oh, what did they do wrong? Doc. Yeah. Okay. Now that's really small. And do we really want to make it look like that small? I'm not sure. What I'd actually like to do, and I don't know if we can do it, is I'd love to take out the center of the image. Do we know how to do that? I think we might be able to. Let's do width 200. Let's do height equals 200, which is clearly not enough to fill it. And stretch mode equals uniform fill. uniform to fill. Okay. Now what I really need is a yeah, image fill. That would, I could keep it round then, couldn't I? Actually, I have an idea here. Why don't we just limit the height and put the text in a little overlaying rectangle. Center margin equals 3. Put some text on there. Wait, that didn't do what I want. Panel not docked. Okay. That'll give us a little bit of the card, and we're going to stick the text on top now. Usually I just copy the text up a bit higher, but I might as well just show you the other thing. We have something called Z-offset to make this easier at times, but I've been having problems with this in preview. Yeah. So I was going to copy to the top. Z-offset should have worked, and I have to file that issue still in preview that somehow it doesn't always come up. So now we have the name overlaid on top. It's supposed to have a margin though, it's because of the margin over here. Okay, margin equals 5. Get rid of that margin. Margin equals 3. Make it almost transparent. Corner radius equals 5. Oops, I meant almost opaque, not almost transparent. Reduce. Raw types reduce object comma type to... Alright, I'm going to go do that then. I'm going to see if this works first. We have this. I don't actually... This approach looks okay, so we have a bit of the image. I wish I could shift the image, and this is a feature coming up. But since pleasing cone came up with syntax, I actually want to see if I can fix the Netrunner one. So we're going to go back to the overview first. And I have nothing in the overview. I don't know why. Come on. There we go. So we said this for factions. So if this is correct, we should be able to say factions equals, and according to the syntax, raw faction. Oh, let's just do it for types. So it's exactly the same. Types equals raw types reduce object comma type object to type code. Does this create a object by default? Type return object. And this is the default starting point. Okay, I understand that. Let's see if this actually works. Before I say I understand it, let's see if it actually works. Yeah, that's what I figured out when finally I saw that bit here. This is the not the default. This is the starting point for reduce, isn't it? So this is the first object it passes into object, and reduce will just keep adding these together. But I have an error here somewhere. Reduce is not a function. Yeah, because it's data. Come on, reload. Wow, I don't know what this is. This is, I'm going to actually have to report this error. Can I increase the size here a bit first? Hello. Let me expand this a little bit first so I can see what this error is. System argument exception. Good, so I'm going to take a screenshot. And let's hope that put a screenshot somewhere useful for me. I'll look at it later. But I'd really like to start catching some of these errors. And because this requiring a rebuild is kind of annoying. But does the syntax look okay now? It's waiting for it again. The syntax isn't any smaller, but I mean, it feels more correct to do it that way. I like high-level constructs. I mean, we're not modifying some global object here. That's the goal of this approach. This reduce over this for each, and this for each is more of the imperative approach. We declare an object in for each, then we add stuff to it. Whereas the reduce is the functional approach. We take an object, keep modifying it, and it can reduce this however it wants. The ordering here is not important. It could actually break it up anyway. And so that appears to actually work. So it's good. So we're going to change the other one as well, just because we like that. Bar types. And we're going to do raw factions. Switch this up. .data.reduce. Object kind of faction. And object faction.code equals faction. And okay. Now I just don't know why it's doing this. This is kind of annoying. It's not supposed to do this. It doesn't really care, so we're going to do it again. It's when I modify this very low level file, and as for us, I mean very low level. I mean it's a nested file. It's not much to do with the model, and that's what's causing these problems here. Let's do that. Let's. Now I'm sure there's some even cleaner way to do this one, but we can probably leave that for now. And okay, waiting. So I do like that with the reduce. Just learn some new JavaScript. I've used reduce in other contexts, but adding this is an interesting one. Reducing to a high-level object as opposed to a single value, because this is technically a single value. Yeah, and some of this is again kind of slow. I think I'm going to have to upgrade my MacBook. I've thrown it on the floor this time because it makes too much fan noises. Hopefully it doesn't come into the mic. Okay, good. So we have that mapping working. And thanks to Pleasing Cone for the syntax. We can use nicer syntax than the for each. Now, if we're happy with that, we can go back to looking at one of the cards. Okay. We have a card here, and we took a little bit of image of it, and we have an overlay on it. And some padding. Text truncation, ellipsis, it should be fine. So we can clearly see that, and we have a card. Now I say what would be really nice is because we know where the image is usually on these cards, and this actually may be totally wrong. Actually, it probably is wrong. If we go back for ice, ice has the picture in a totally different location. Yeah. But it fulfills our needs right now. We're just going to do a little snippet. But what we should do later is, and I think we need a feature set, depending on the type of card, we're just going to guess where the image part is, and then shift this up a little bit so we can stick it around there. But for now, let's put a little stroke around it. And where'd my stroke go? Pretty sure I added one. I always do this if I'm not sure. See why? Ah, yeah, because it's on the rectangle. I want it on the actual image. So the color is that. That's for the actual rectangle. I don't think that needs an actual border, but I want a border around the whole image. So we might go back to Ola's suggestion and actually use an image fill on this. Image fill, and let's make this a rectangle. We'll just keep using random corner radius just so we don't have square corners. We'll put a stroke on this now. Stroke color equals. It's a new line. Image fill does not have a property called height. Yeah, okay, that's because I want this rectangle to have the height. Okay, so now we have the image sort of locked in there. And we have the other information below it. And we have the faction again, card data.faction, but we can actually put card data.faction.name now. And it also has a type.name. That's what we did in the other pages. Or apparently not. Why is that not working now? Because we're... Yeah, okay, that's not working because we're reloading the card here. That was our example of how we actually load a card. Card view.js, we're actually loading a card. This update card, card data. Card data equals card data. This is the raw data. But we have an actual card for this, and that was in card listing. Wherever I put that, take that away. That away. We have this card class, which takes card data and patches it up the way we want it. So let's actually put this into a new file first so we can reuse this. Class card, exports, card.js, and import card from /card. Then we can reuse this in the other place as well. In card view, we'll do the same thing. Let's say new card, card data. Will that be enough to satisfy it? Or will it break something again? Let's load a different one. Well, it doesn't like me. Something did wrong. Card2 default is not a constructor. How did we fix that again? Card listing, card view. What did card view look like? Export default? Was that it? refresh it. Another error. NDB is not defined. Yeah, okay. Alright. Still have an error somewhere. Faction font map is not defined. Okay, I started getting really weird stuff. I put it in here because I forgot to move this over. It actually reloaded, so now if I go to the card... Okay, now it has the identities. Does this missing other text? Yeah, it's missing the other text now. Because what we're reloading on the card view page, and we're loading text. That's one thing we're missing is text. But this DB data may not have the text anymore because we're loading it from two different sources. Text equals I didn't like that at all. Error refine file. Unexpected token. No coalesce isn't a part of text, is it? Does JavaScript have a null coalesce operator? I thought it did. Maybe not. Is it or maybe? Or. Let's load that up. Or honestly makes more sense than question, but okay. So now it has text. And the type and identity should go on the same thing, so let's do another little view there. Let's put another one at our refined graphic design skills. Corner radius equals 5. No, we don't need a dock panel. I can just align stuff. Type name. Alignment equals left. Right. Padding equals 5.2. A little bit brighter. Okay, and that puts a little bit more design there. The text should also be indented. Rather than indenting all of these the same amount, let's just say the margin of the stack panel is 5.2. Or actually not the margin, the padding. And the item space equals 5. Then we could probably take this off. Don't need the margin. And don't need the margin here. Still need the padding. Okay, so that aligns it all a little bit better. And we have the name in this. Now if we want to do what Ulda said, is to actually create the pop-up view here. This is where it starts getting a little bit more interesting. So if we want to view the card, and we'll just say clicking on it views the card. So the first thing we want to do is create something that views the card full screen. So let's put that on top of everything. And scroll view, we're going to have a panel. Let's call it full view. visibility equals collapsed. It just won't be there for now. And all this has in it is an image. Has this image in it. Not stretched to fill, just uniform. Which is actually just the default, so we don't really need it. And how do we want to open this up? If you click on the image, if we click somewhere in this rectangle, click, then we want to do set full view.visibility equals visible. And we have no way to get back though. Right. Image fill is not the correct thing. We actually need an image. We don't want this to repeat. Every time I reload, it's just going to go back to this because it's not a proper state. Now we can see the full view here. And we're actually going to put a background color in here to hide what's behind it, so you won't see anything. And how do we get back? That's just, first of all, if we click it, we'll worry about the zooming and panning after we've set up the basics. I prefer doing that way. Visibility equals collapsed. So if I click on this, it should open up. I click, it goes back. Now, what I think all this wants here is a translation. What we want to do is we want to zoom it. So actually, I don't know if we can actually do this. There's a real issue here because we're clipping this. I don't think we have a way to properly zoom between clipped and not clipped. But let's try it anyways. We need a transition, and this is where this fake transition stuff can come from. I did this somewhere. Where did I do this? I had an example where we can do a layout transition, a fake layout transition between two items. And let's check the docs on that and see if we actually have an example. Might be transition layout, I think is what it is. Yes, I want to do zoom gesture and pan gesture afterwards. Those do work on desktop with some wacky key combinations. I fixed that recently. What I want first is the initial zoom working so that we can actually see, so it zooms in and out. I'm not so concerned about zooming and panning yet. Once we get it zoomed in, we can do it. Okay, and this is actually the thing right here. Transition layout. Let's actually copy this and see how far we get. Oh, what did they do? So we're going to lay out animation on the image. And when we do this, transition layout, I hope transition layout takes a target. Yeah, clicked. Transition layout target equals. And this one needs a name. Full image. Full image, and what do we need? We need from. Where is this going to work? From what? UX name. Title image. I really Not 100% confident in that yet. So why is that open? It reloads a lot. Okay, this is really gonna be hard to get working. Because it's coming from the wrong position and it's coming from the wrong size. Let's see if we can improve it. First of all, let's get rid of the background color so we can see it. And layout animation can actually do something really weird and change full view dot color. You can actually make it transparent at first. Duration equals 1. Stretch mode, we have to start with uniform to fill. Otherwise it won't line up. Okay. So that actually kind of reveals it. The problem is it gets too big because the uniform to fill is just filling up the whole screen. But it does kind of do the revealing. Now I'm just wondering if we can map between a uniform to fill and a uniform. It's going to suddenly switch at some point, and this is going to be a real problem. How can I do that? How can we fix this in some other way? I'm not clear on how to do this very easily. What if I do it this way? Say the image's width equals 100%. Alignment equals center. Okay, that almost looks like it reveals it correctly. And this forces the alignment. Well, this is what I'm trying to avoid fixed dimensions, is that, and this width should work, because the problem with this size is a uniform to fill is going to fill it up. And we actually don't need this uniform to fill anymore. We can just get rid of it. The stretch mode of default of just uniform will it actually work, or do I need both of them? No, I'm going to need both of them. And so uniform to fill, and I zip it to this size, this is going to force it to never need to get bigger than the width. Whereas if I just did the full, if I let it fill up the whole area, the height of the thing, it's going to zoom in farther than I actually want it. And what we want now, though, is we want to actually toggle the visibility of the background image. And how can we actually do that? Let's just hide it for now. Set title image dot visibility equals hidden. Now using set here is just really not so good, but I just want to see it working first, and then we can see if we can do it with a cleaner way. Visible, and this has to be a delay equals 1. Okay. Alright, because we don't have a backwards one, so let's just get rid of that. So that zooms out now. Do we need to zoom back as well? Zooming back might be good, yeah. Transition layout, it has a to as well, or just a from? From elements, and I don't know if I can do the from. How do I transition it back the other way? It's full of stars. What does that mean? Okay. Well, we can zoom in. I got that. I can zoom in. I'm just trying to figure out how to zoom out. Doesn't matter how many times I click this, I'm going to be confused with this. And how can we actually zoom it back? Because it's not the same element now. I would settle for any way to zoom back right now, because I'm going to change the duration of all of this. 1 second's kind of slow. I don't know how we can get it back to the same size. Clicked. Well, we can actually do this. We can do a scale. And just fake it on the way back. We can really fake it on the way back to just scale it down. Or do a resize. Resize so it's not faked. Relative 2 equals... what do I want? I wanted size, no? I don't know what this is going to do. Ah, come on. Reloading. I guess I have to get these collapsed out of here. Full view visibility, this is a delay of 1. Be a delay of 1 as well. Why is it not taking the resizing to it? Because I always forget these things. And it's kind of annoying. I forget them. It's really hard to make them the default of 1 though. Because by default, resize doesn't say which aspect I'm resizing, just resizes nothing. Is it safe to click on this link? Why not? I'll assume it's safe. Okay, there we go. Now it's full of stars. This zooming back is kind of bugging me. Title image, why does it not get smaller? Relative size, relative no title image. Target equals full image. Well, okay, it's getting closer. Okay, I gotta kill this duration a bit first. Just so we don't go insane watching this the whole time on the way there. Move. Now move is the tricky one. Target equals full image. Factor would be for scale. Yeah. Vector equals 1. Relative 2 equals position offset, I think. It's getting closer. It has a little bit of a jump, but it actually scrolls back now. I don't know what happened to the text behind it though. Where is that jumping coming from? Is it just because of the scaling or the border? It might be. Or is it world position offset? I always forget this one. No. There's a couple of them to go through. Well, it's just position offset then. Okay, I'm going to have to work on this, I think, on my own to go through the fine details of why this doesn't have the exact same sizes. But we go back and forth now. And not sure why the text doesn't appear behind it. Did we hide it? We're not hiding it. Collapse, color. Shouldn't make a difference. So we don't need the color, so we don't need to scale the color either. Okay, so we can go back and forth. Now combining this, we can actually do this without layout animation, and this is one way, the triggering to go there and back. And I'm actually going to find a way to combine this because I actually have an image viewer that does exactly this type of thing, but it does it better. I just don't remember the code off the top of my head, and it has a listing and it zooms in and out, and that's exactly what we're doing here. The biggest difference though is that it has a proper thumbnail. This is not a proper thumbnail. We have a clip thumbnail, and when we can get close and the text comes back, we should probably zoom the text in and out, but we'll just leave it for now. And the other text is there. This is our card, and we can still go back and view it. Make sure this works on some other card. I mean, there's no reason it won't work on another card. But there we can reveal that. Now, if we can't get this working right, there's many ways we can fake it, but I think this will work, and I think I can get the spacing just perfect. And I'm actually going to put the margin here of 5,2 as well to match the padding exactly on the other view. That might change it slightly. So the zooming in works precise now, and this is zooming out. And I thought I actually had a layout animation too, because we have this layout transition from, but we don't have a to. And I thought we do have a to, but apparently we don't, but maybe we do. Let me check the actual code for transition layout, because that would simplify it a lot, because that would be the exact opposite of the first part. I don't even know where that is though. It's not there. It's going to be in elements under transition layout. Well, I'm going to have to search for it on the command line. I don't know. The shell never keeps this size, so .-name layout animation. I think I stuck it in there. Elements triggers layout animation. Elements, that was pretty close. It's going to open a new workspace for me. Oh, I didn't this time. That's nice. And here's the layout transition. Those are the statics. Somewhere in here is layout transition. Layout animation. Okay, this is a bit... Huh. So I don't have a 2, and it makes a lot of sense, but we shouldn't need it. But I'm going to have to look at that one on my own, because I'm getting confused on how I'd actually do that. And where are we at? I think we'll just leave that for now. With a little bit of a jump. Not entirely sure where that comes from. And size, duration back. Duration back is so it's immediate. I mean, that's one of the obvious ones. Otherwise, it would expand and contract. That was helpful. Now, I know all this really wants pan and zoom on this, but is it something we really need for the card view, or should we go on to something else? Because these cards, like, they don't get that much bigger. The typical phone, it should be more than big enough to view these things. And if we actually look at the source image, copy never seems to work for me. Copy. Paste. These source images aren't that big. If we pan and zoom, you'd actually just have a quality problem. You wouldn't see much more to this. And so if we run out of other things to do, maybe we can add the panning and zooming. I'm going to fix this transition offline to figure out exactly how I want to do it, or add the feature of 2, because I really think that if I can transition from something, yeah, I don't have any other versions of these. This is all I have. I have just this card image. I'm sure there's somewhere else online, and I would really love to have high resolution images of them, but without them, I'm thinking just gonna leave it out, because there's not a lot of, because really there's nothing to zoom or pan. And I'll figure out this thing online. I'll figure out this transition. What I really want to work here, and I think it's a fair feature, is that if I can transition from an element, like from the small one to the big one, it only makes sense that I can transition back to the small one. And I thought I'm almost positive I did this somewhere else, but I might have done it just with move, because what I might have decided is that this layout stuff is too complicated, and there's a lot of problems with it, so I might have actually done it just with move and resize things instead. And there are ways to do it, and I'll figure out the way that we actually did that, and I can get an update next time. Okay, but let's just recap what we have. I got the card viewer. I managed to put some super awesome design on, on these cards here, and there's a corner radius issue I have to check here. We have no idea why there's no corner radius here. There's supposed to be. And we got the logos in, and we loaded a bunch of data. We loaded the card type. We have the actual type here, which is actual proper name now, even though it looks exactly the same as code. Yeah, and all this points out again, collapsing and expanding things is a bit of a problem, and especially with text, and this is why I just avoided the text. I cleverly avoided the text. Cards have text on them, so we can pretend it's just part of that. And there are many ways to do it, and the problem is that depending exactly what effect you want, there's a correct way to do it. And I look at it again, it's usually never our highest priority to make these work. They work really nice in some situations, but if you deviate too much, weird things happen. And I'll just keep looking at it. I'll look at that one. Okay, so this is our scrolling. We can scroll up. We're this far. We have some sense that you could do nice graphic design here. We don't have a nice graphic design, but you could do it. We got the color. We loaded the color. We have the option to click on it. We load the part of the image. We'd love to offset the image a bit. We can probably base it on type. And you can click on it, and you can zoom in. Zooming in works. Zooming out, not so good. I mean, a little bit off, that's all. It's slightly off, and I can figure that one out. We lay out the faction and what type of card it is. And I noticed this previously too, is in this text we have things like credit. Now what that is that this is part of the font. There's an actual symbol for the font credit. And this is going to be very challenging to do because I don't think we have a way to do custom fallback fonts yet. And this is what this would require to replace this. We can't. I actually have to replace this with another symbol from a different font. And those system fonts work for fallback. I don't know if we do. I'm going to check with somebody. But that's where we are now. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything in particular you'd like to be done on this project, you can give me ideas. Otherwise, next time I'll just run through random things. And you can please follow me on Twitch to see the next episode, or follow me on Twitter. And go try Fuse Tools if you want. I'm going to update this. This will be on the GitHub repository where they usually are. And you can play around with this as well and see what it looks like. And that's it for now. Thank you, and see you next time.